From literal volcanic fields to unbelievable temperatures you probably didn't even know existed. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out the 10 hottest places on Earth. Number 10. Dallol, Ethiopia. When you think of hot places, I'll bet you would at least consider one that is volcanically active as a potential hotspot, pun intended. And that's exactly what Dallol in Ethiopia was and is. You can find it in the Afar Depression of Ethiopia, and it is indeed an area that is affected by the prospect of being an erupting volcano. And that's not even one of the only reasons it's hot. Where it is located in Ethiopia is actually a mining site, and people did reside there for some time, and then it became a ghost town. And given the heat, it's not hard to see why. Just on average, yes, on average, the place would be about 90 degrees plus. During 1960 to 1966, the average temperature of Dallol was 94 degrees Fahrenheit. And recall that average doesn't mean highest, so it could get even more intense. So, high average temperature, chance of the place erupting violently? Yep, that's not a good place to live. And this is only number 10. Number 9. Coober Pedy, Australia. On the surface, both literally and metaphorically, Coober Pedy in Australia seems like any other town in the world. It just so happens that this town is right next to the biggest opal mine in the world, but that doesn't make the town rich per se, and it definitely doesn't help that their location is in a place that has no shade or barricade from the sun, which can literally roast the surface where the people live. How do I define roast? Well, how about 113 degrees? That's pretty hot. And so, the people of Coober Pedy did the only thing that they could do. They moved into the mines. I'm serious, they did that. They moved into a series of mines and underground tunnels and caverns that they had been living next to and working inside of for years. If you go to the actual town, you'll find houses, but they're not lived in. So why is a mine better than living on the surface? Well, first off, it's cooler in there. Because of the design of the rock structure, it won't get hotter than 75 degrees, which is at least 30 degrees cooler than what's going on up on the surface. At first, it must have been hard to live in those conditions. However, the people have made the most of it, and they're now more or less thriving down there. Some have been able to outfit their homes with things like pools, which is no doubt a hot commodity down there. Another pun intended. Either way, Coober Pedy is a very hot place in the world, but the people have found a way to beat the heat just by not being in it. Number 8. Wadi Halfa, Sudan. Before we check out Sudan, take a moment to like this video and join the Zero to Hero community by subscribing to our channel. You would think that a place that is close to a body of water would be immune to the heat of the world, but as Wadi Halfa proves, it's not the case. The temperature of this gateway city can get up to 127 degrees Fahrenheit. What do I mean by gateway city? Well, despite it being a part of Sudan, at the northernmost point, interestingly enough, people go through the Wadi Halfa in order to get to Egypt because of its location. Sadly, this version of Wadi Halfa is the second to bear the name, as the first had a very sad fate. The original Wadi Halfa was submerged when the Aswan High Dam created Lake Nasser in 1971. At the time, approximately 50,000 inhabitants of the area were forcibly removed from their lands and relocated to the desert, where many died of malaria and other diseases. A few Wadi Halfans, however, remain along the Nile, the river that built their ancestors' identities as fishermen and river traders, building new settlements several times and finally settling on the current location when the flooding stopped. New or old, you better bring heat protection when you're going there. Number 7. Aghajar Iran. If there's one thing I've learned recently, it's that no matter how hot or cold a place gets, it can most definitely be inhabited by a lot of people. Aghajar is the capital of the Aghajar district in Bebahan County, Khuzestan Province, Iran. That's a lot of names, yes, but they do all have a point, as it's a capital city. And at one time, despite the intense heat, 65,000 people were a part of this city. Even though it would get as hot as 128 degrees, it was a thriving city. So what happened? Well, the war between Iran and Iraq eventually broke out, and when it did, the city was caught in the crossfire, and so most of the population left. Today, only about 14,000 people remain. Number 6. Aghajar, Iran. Thought we were done with Iran? Not even close. If you thought it was crazy how populated Aghajar was, you'll be amazed that 1.4 million people live in Aghajar, which is not only a very hot city, but one that deals with a lot of dust storms. It barely beats out Aghajarian heat, but hey, 128.3 degrees Fahrenheit is still incredibly hot. Its summers are known to be boiling hot, and the dust storms only add to the issues of the city to the extent that it's been named the most air-polluted city in the world today. And when you consider all the air pollution in the world, that's quite a statement. Number 5. Iran, Mali. Imagine yourself in a village in the middle of a desert, and the only thing for miles around is more desert. And over 150 miles away is a city. Now you know about Iran in Mali. It houses only 300 people, and it's only somewhat popular because it rests on a caravan route that takes people to a salt mining place called Taudeni. Oh, and that city that's 150 miles away? That would be Timbuktu. And if you were caught in a place with 130-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, you'd be getting on that route to Timbuktu toot sweet. Number 4. Kepley, Tunisia. If you've ever heard of the term oasis, then you know exactly what Kepley is. It was built to be a literal oasis from the heat of the deserts of Tunisia, and in fact, it's the oldest oasis in the country. This isn't just a statement though, it has proof of human life that determines it to be the place where some of the first humans settled in the country. It is now the capital of Kepley Governorate, and its record temperature is 131 degrees. Number 3. Al-Azizia, Libya. Here's one that is a bit controversial in the world of heat index, because at one time this was the hottest place on Earth with a massive heat recording of 136 degrees Fahrenheit. The place known as Al-Azizia is in Libya and is actually the capital of a district known as Jafara. Libya is, by itself, a very hot place to live because of the deserts and scorching sun and whatnot. But as for the recorded heat, it was found out to be fake, which raises all sorts of questions. More accurately, it was found to be invalid. This was because of a couple of things. First, it was taken in 1922, and equipment wasn't as advanced as it is now. 2, the person who took the recording apparently wasn't experienced, and so, in 2012, the World Meteorological Organization, yes, that tongue twister exists, stripped it of its title. Bet you didn't think that the world of temperature readings was that cutthroat, huh? But it is. Despite this, there is absolute confirmation that this is one of the hottest places in the world on average, as their average temperature is about 120 degrees in the summertime. Number 2. Death Valley, USA. Surprised? It's alright, a lot of people think that Death Valley is the hottest place on Earth. Above the surface, obviously. And that's because of the legends and stories that have built up its mystique, as well as the facts about how hot it gets. And make no mistake, it's hot. Interestingly enough, the first trek into Death Valley that's documented happened during the California Gold Rush. People were trying to cross the desert that is the Death Valley in order to get to California, and weren't prepared for just how hot and unforgiving this desert is. It took their lives, and thus the name Death Valley was born. But what people forget is that Death Valley isn't a desert proper, but rather a single area in the Mojave Desert. So that begs the question, why is Death Valley so hot? That's because of its position in the world. Mainly, it is a place that is the lowest and driest area in all of North America, and that creates a barren wasteland of heat. Its record is 134 degrees Fahrenheit. Want to know the most rain that Death Valley ever got? 2.59 inches. And that was in January of 1995. How's that for ironic? 2 inches or so of rain is the most that this valley ever got, and that's scary in its own right. So be smart. Don't go through this valley unless you're prepared for everything. Number 1. Lut Desert, Iran. I'm sure if you asked most people what the hottest place on Earth was, you'd hear them say Death Valley. But while that may be the place with the highest temperature that man itself has measured, it's not the hottest place on Earth. That would be the Lut Desert in Iran. You might be wondering, why is it the case that most people believe it's Death Valley? The answer is honestly quite simple. It has to do with location and reach. For example, people can reach Death Valley and go to its hotspots rather easily if they're properly prepared. The Lut Desert in Iran is not such a place. So because of that, the heat of the deserts couldn't be measured on the ground. But that's where satellites come in, and they revealed a very interesting twist on what actually is the hottest spot on the planet. Most of the places that call themselves the hottest on Earth are not even serious contenders, said team member Stephen Running in a NASA statement. Access is key to this research. The Earth's hottest desert, such as the Sahara, the Gobi, the Sonoran, and the Lut, are climatically harsh and so remote that access for routine measurements and maintenance of a weather station is impractical, said team member David Mildrexer. The majority of Earth's hottest spots are simply not being directly measured by ground-based instruments. But using satellites, it's discovered that the Lut Desert has reached a scorching temperature of 156 degrees Fahrenheit in certain areas. 156 degrees. That's 22 degrees more than Death Valley, which, as you should know, is a pretty sizable difference. And this was using satellite technology, which means that if we looked hard enough, they might be able to find more hotspots like this. And that is scary. What's the hottest temperature you've ever experienced? Let us know in the comments below, and take care.